We've gone final in game one of week 4 Thursday night, a 27-15 Bengals winner. The Felines get back to 2-2. Miami suffers their first loss of the season, leaving the Philadelphia Eagles as the only undefeated team heading into Sunday at 3-0. But as for this one, Joe Burrow, 20 of 31, 287, goes over his passing yards prop late. 2 touchdowns as well. T. Higgins was featured in this passing attack, 7 receptions, $124. Jamar Chase, quiet night with just 4 receptions, but 81 yards, included a long one that got him over his yardage prop as well. And we have been tracking the latest as it pertains to Tua Tagovailoa, who suffered a head injury in the second quarter of this one, was carted off the field. It is reported that Tua is conscious, has movement in all of his extremities, is expected to be discharged from the hospital tonight, and will travel with the team back to Miami. All right, plenty to unpack with CBS NFL writer Tyler Sullivan. Tyler, let's start right there with Tua, his condition. Again, he is expected to be discharged on Thursday night and travel back with the team. That was reported on the broadcast. But 30,000 feet here, how do tonight's events affect the trajectory of Miami's seasons, knowing what we know?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the status of Tua Tagovailoa in terms of when he'll get back on the field. So it looks like it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater's show for the foreseeable future. Obviously, we'll get more information on Tua as the days and hours go a little bit forward. Obviously, encouraging that he will be discharged and go back to Miami with the team. But in terms of him getting back onto the field, you know, I almost feel like it's almost going to be even more strict, even more, imposed on the protocols for him to get back onto the field, considering what has just happened over the last 4 days with him going back to the Buffalo game and, of course, what happened tonight. And then when you start looking at big picture, what does this mean for their season? Teddy Bridgewater, a serviceable backup quarterback, one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. I thought he played well tonight in considering all of those situations. So for me, I don't know if there's going to be that much of a blip on the radar in terms of what they're going to get at the quarterback position. Like we said at halftime, this is one of those situations where the quarterback for Miami's offense, the quarterback for Mike McDaniel's led offense, is more of a point guard than anything else. You are distributing to the likes of Tyreek Hill, to Jalen Waddle, to Mike Gesicki, and those guys in the backfield, Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds. It's not like you're being asked to lift the team to victory. You're just to exploit the matchups and kind of get the ball into the hands of your skill position players and let them get yards after the catch. So I don't know if there's going to be that much of a drop-off in terms of play at the quarterback position going from Tua to Teddy Bridgewater for however long that's going to be.
I do want to unpack some of Teddy's performance here on Thursday night, but first, doubling back on Tua here, because the optics are what they are, and they are not good. How do you make peace? How does this all sit with you, seeing what we saw last Sunday and then seeing what occurred here on Thursday night?
Yeah, it's a horrible look for the NFL. I mean, it's not at all how this process is supposed to go. You are supposed to have these independent neurological figures on the sideline up above the concussion spotters for these exact reasons. Going back to Buffalo, again, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any medical background or anything along those lines, but you look at what Tua Tagovailoa looked like in that game against the Bills, and he could barely stand up, super wobbly. It's textbook. He has some neurological issue. He is dealing with a concussion. Now, they somehow went into the locker room, did the sideline evaluation, then went into the locker room and determined that wasn't the case. And what they're looking for is symptoms at that point. You're not getting tested for legitimate concussions. You're not going through any sort of MRI or anything along those lines. You're looking for symptoms. For me, that's a symptom for what we saw in that game against Buffalo. So I don't know how he was able to get back into the game then. And now when you compound it to what we saw in this game just 4 days later, it's just a horrible look for the NFL. It's a horrible look for the Miami Dolphins. It's just a bad scene all around, and really you're just concerned for Tua Tagovailoa.
And remember, Stephen Ross in this Dolphins franchise already been docked 1 first-round pick due to tampering in the offseason. And here we take a look at the NFLPA's tweet that they sent out during the game after Tua's injury, reading, "Player health and safety is at the core of the union's mission. Our concern tonight is for Tua, and we hope for a full and speedy recovery. Our investigation into the potential protocol violation is ongoing," and that obviously refers to the protocol that was worked through on Sunday. Let's talk a little Teddy Bridgewater here because we now do have a bit of a sample size, Tyler, as he did do what he did in the second half, and he looked very much like Teddy Bridgewater has in the past. These guys just don't change overnight. 14 of 23, a $183, a touchdown, and a costly interception. And that's really what comes into question here because minus that interception, those numbers look nice, and you might even be looking at a W. What did you make of his performance here, thrust into action with definitely some sharper preparation throughout the week?
Yeah, I thought he played well here, and I think that interception that you're talking about is the trials and tribulations of not being the starting quarterback. There was some miscommunication there with Mike Gesicki. In a couple of weeks, let's just say Tua Tagovailoa is out for the foreseeable future. If Teddy Bridgewater is getting those reps in practice, if he's getting those first-team reps over the course of the week and obviously getting some game reps, I don't think you're going to see that type of miscommunication that leads to those critical turnovers. It looked like Bridgewater thought he was going one way and Gesicki was running a different route, and then all of a sudden the game's over and there's a turnover. But before that, like you were alluding to, it did feel like they were going to the Dolphins either get this thing to where they are going to cover or they win this game outright. So I still believe that they can win football games with Teddy Bridgewater going forward. And credit to them, they had a 3-0 record going into this game. You have that little bit of a cushion to kind of, maybe work some things with Teddy Bridgewater over the next week or so. And lucky for them, they played on Thursday, so you kind of get this mini bye here to even prep him even more going into week 5.
Winners usually eat first, Tyler, but this is not a traditional night. We do have to talk about the Bengals. Joe Burrow efforting his team to another win here. This offense really completely devoid of a run game right now. I believe 67 yards total on the ground, but a win is a win is a win. You're 2-2 now in a very winnable division, a matchup with the Ravens forthcoming, and that will be the matchup that could go a long way in deciding this division. What have you made of the Bengals to this point, and how do you really put your finger on them offensively? What are they?
Yeah, it's really weird because obviously you feel good about them winning this game and, you're like, all right, maybe they put 2 in a row together and maybe they're turning things around, but it still feels like we're not there yet with the Cincinnati Bengals. As much as we can say, all right, well, they're stacking up a couple of wins. Yeah, you beat the New York Jets and they had 4 turnovers last week. And then this week, Tua Tagovailoa goes down. You're playing a backup quarterback. It was closer than it should have been in that second half, and you really kind of won that game off a costly turnover because of the backup quarterback and because he doesn't have that regularity with his pass catchers. It just feels like the offense for the Bengals is still a bit disjointed. Yes, they were able to make some chunk plays with T. Higgins in this game. He seemed to have a lively, he was lively in this game, not so much Jamar Chase or Tyler Boyd, for a little bit there. But for me, T. Higgins was fine. But really the run game with Joe Mixon, they haven't been able to put things together really for the entire season here for the first month or so. The Dolphins did a good job up front. They were pressuring pretty much the entire game. They were pressing the receivers. They were making life difficult for the running game and for the receivers to really get off and create space for themselves. But overall, it just feels like with the talent that they have at the quarterback position, the talent that they have at the skill position players, and then a revamped offensive line, it feels like the Bengals should be a lot further along and in the conversation of a Buffalo Bills high-octane offense, Baltimore Raven high-octane offense that can put up 30-plus points in a blink of an eye, and it just doesn't feel like they're there. It feels like they had to struggle a bit to get to the 27 points in this game tonight. So as much as you're encouraged for them to get back to 500, I still need to see more. So this game against Baltimore next week is going to be very key to see how we look at them long term.
T-Cells, great stuff as always, my friend. We appreciate your point of view. All right, we got to pass along a winner here, and you want to win, you win with us. We do pass this one along with some sensitivity, as you do see a Tua Tagovailoa under 1.5 passing touchdowns coming through as a part of Kenny White's parlay, but in totality, it's got 5 legs and it can run better than 13-1. You watch, you wager, you win.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.